Anybody can have an opinion, but is it the correct opinion? Our producers found real bold statements about college basketball recently made by you, the fans, on Twitter. So should we retweet or delete? For that, we bring in our hoops expert and Twitter aficionado, Seth Davis. Seth, let's begin with the NBA draft, less than a month away now. Maxwell Ogden tweets, "The world is beginning to take note of what I've said all along. Victor Oladipo is the best player in this draft." Seth, should we retweet or delete?
Well, as you know, Ray, I love me some Oladipo, but I'm going to delete this tweet. He's not the best player in the draft. In fact, I think he might have a more difficult transition to the pros than a lot of people anticipate, especially at the offensive end. A lot made about his three-point percentage improvement. He went up to 44%, which is up from 21% as a sophomore, but he only made 33s the entire year, Ray, which means about one per game. I think it's going to be a tough adjustment for Oladipo at the offensive end. Defensively, he's a pro, but he's not the best player in the draft.
All right, Seth, another draft tweet, this one about taking Nerlens Noel with that top pick. Nigel Egger tweets, "Nerlens Noel will be an NBA All-Star and Defensive Player of the Year. Don't pass him up at 1. So, Seth, retweet or delete?
Well, I would retweet the second part of that sentence. I do think he's going to go number 1 in the draft, but I'm not sure that I see him necessarily as a Defensive Player of the Year type. Obviously, his knee is a question, but his frame is an even bigger question, Ray. He measured very light at the pre-draft combine in Chicago. There's some questions about whether or not he can handle the physical nature of NBA basketball, the rigors of an 82-game season and a lengthy postseason. I think he'll be an effective shot blocker and rebounder in the NBA. But if you're asking me, is he going to be a future NBA Defensive Player of the Year? I'm saying the answer is no.
All right, next year's number 1 pick is likely to be Kansas freshman Andrew Wiggins. He was the Gatorade National Player of the Year in 2013. But at Jimmy Two Toes says Wiggins is going to be a crisp bust. Seth, is this one even worthy of a retweet or an absolute delete?
I'm going to delete both of Jimmy's toes on this one. I've actually tempered my praise of Andrew Wiggins. I think he's a superior athlete. I'm not convinced he's the best player in this high school class. There are a couple of other guys who I think are worthy of consideration of that mantle. But the fact to say that he's going to be a bust, I think, is absolutely excessive, especially the fact that he's going to Kansas, which is going to have a brand new starting lineup. Bill Self's going to handle him the basketball and have him go do his thing. He'll be a terrific freshman. So a bust, definitely not. I'm going to delete.
Even without Andrew Wiggins, John Calipari's recruiting class in Lexington still might be the best ever. Thomas Goldkamp tweets, "I just don't see how you cannot rank anybody better than Kentucky number 1 going into next basketball season. Loaded team." Seth, retweet or delete?
Definitely retweet. I rank Kentucky as my number 1 preseason team heading into next season. I think most people are going to do the same. Obviously, if Wiggins had gone there, it would have made an even more effective case. But, I mentioned about whether or not Wiggins is the best player in the class. I think it actually might be Julius Randle, who's a lefty power forward from Texas, who's headed to Kentucky. The fact that Willie Cauley-Stein decided to come back. The fact that Kyle Wiltshire is going to be back gives him a little bit of an upper class presence. So, yeah, I've got Kentucky number 1 next year, and I think that most people will as well.
All right, I think you're going to like this final one here, Seth. Coach K was quoted as saying the ACC will be a 10-bid league and the best conference in the history of the game. It's a good time right now. So high praise for next year's new-look ACC. So what do you think, retweet or delete?
Well, I'll retweet it because it's an interesting quote and it comes from a famous guy. Louisville will not be in the league next year, so they're still 2 years away. So maybe it's more apropos for 2 years out. But I'm just wary, Ray, of these statements that anything is the best thing ever. I just think ever is a very, very long time. I think the ACC made a great move for its basketball profile, bringing in Pittsburgh, bringing in Syracuse, bringing in Notre Dame. It will certainly have more teams in the NCAA tournament, but it will also have more teams in the conference. So I'll retweet Coach K, but I can't say necessarily I'm giving him a full-throated endorsement.
Fair enough. He is our college basketball insider, Seth Davis. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Ray.
Be sure to check out our Spring Spotlight series featuring Mark Gottfried and Rex Walters. They're up right now on the site, campusinsiders.com.